example says they were born in a test tube.
You mean they said they were a test tube baby? It's not exactly what you think, but it's still fascinating. Plasma, do you know how reproduction works?
Um...
I'll explain how reproduction works first. Humans don't reproduce like that. That's asexual reproduction. Some organisms like bacteria do reproduce this way. However, humans undergo sexual reproduction. In this type of reproduction, two parents produce gametes which fuse and produce the new organism.
Are test tube babies created this way as well?
Yeah.
What are gametes? Are they just random cells from each parent?
They're not random. They are special cells produced through meiosis. In this process, the number of chromosomes halves. Chromosomes carry the instructions for the baby's traits. The traits the baby gets from each parent depend on the chromosomes that go to each gamete that will fuse with the other gamete.
What do gametes look like?
In humans, the male gamete is called a sperm and the female gamete is called an egg. After they fuse, they become a zygote.
Aww, the sperm looks like a tiny tadpole. Why is the egg so big?
The egg needs to store large amounts of nutrients to help the embryo grow before it's implanted into the endometrium.
What's the endometrium? And I still don't get it. Where do gametes come from?
In humans, from ovaries and testes.
Where's that?
In the female and male reproductive systems, respectively. Egg cells are produced in the ovaries and sperm are produced in the testes. During intercourse, the sperm enter the female reproductive system for fertilization. Do you know how the sperm knows where the egg is?
Do they have eyes?
No, they are single cells. They use thermotaxis and chemotaxis.
What's that?
They detect temperature and chemicals. They swing towards warmer temperatures and towards chemicals secreted by the egg. When it reaches the egg, the sperm fuses with the egg.
Fusing? How?
When the sperm binds to the zona pellucida, the outer layer of the egg cell, it undergoes an acrosome reaction. Basically, the enzymes on the sperm's head digest the zona pellucida. Then, the membranes of the two cells fuse and the sperm's nucleus enters the egg. Then the cortical reaction happens. This is when the zona pellucida hardens to prevent more sperm from entering. Now is when test tube babies come in.
Oh, test tube babies.
Test tube babies are created through in vitro fertilization, which is fertilization but in a lab.
That's it.
Well, the actual process is more complicated. It involves injections and things like that.
Injections? What injections? To bring unnecessary suffering?
No, for hormones.
Hormones? What does that have to do with test tube babies?
A lot. Females don't release egg cells every day. Usually, they only release once per month, which is how long the menstrual cycle usually lasts. The menstrual cycle is controlled by hormones. We can use hormone injections to hack the system and help the female release eggs at the times she wants. But first, we need to understand how the system works. First, a hormone called FSH, follicle-stimulating hormone, causes a follicle inside the ovary to mature. The follicle contains an egg. As the egg grows, the ovary produces estrogen. Estrogen prepares the uterus and also signals that the egg is nearly ready. When estrogen levels become high, the brain releases a large amount of another hormone called LH, luteinizing hormone. The LH surge causes ovulation, which is when the mature egg is released from the ovary. After the egg is released, the empty follicle produces progesterone, which helps prepare the body in case the egg is fertilized.
Yada yada yada. What does that have to do with baby Campbell?
Injections.
Ah!
During IVF, doctors use hormone injections to help the ovaries produce more eggs than usual. First, some injections are given daily for 2 weeks to stop the secretion of FSH and LH so that the normal menstrual cycle is stopped. Then, injections of FSH are given, which helps several eggs mature at the same time. When the eggs are ready, doctors collect them for fertilization. Fertilization is actually done in a petri dish, not a test tube. The zygote is allowed to divide into an embryo. The mother is prescribed progesterone and estradiol to stimulate the implantation of the embryo. The embryo is placed into the uterus, and from then on, pregnancy occurs just like usual.
And then we have baby Campbell.
Did you just call me?
Ooh, yes. What's that lovely smell? It's from my flowers, of course.
How did you smell the flowers with the windows closed?
I didn't smell it. I just wanted to show you that my flowers have opened. I want to cover the entire garden with flowers. But I only have 2 flowers. I had a DIY plant your own flowers pack, and there were only 2 flowers in the pack.
Let's help them reproduce.
Oh yay!
We need to promote fertilization, dispersal, and germination.
Which are...
Fertilization is fusing a male gamete and a female gamete, just like in humans. In plants, after fertilization, the plant produces a fruit. Inside the fruit, there will be seeds. Dispersal is spreading the seeds that will lead to more flowers. Germination is when the seed grows into a plant.
Well, clearly that's not happening a lot here.
blah blah blah.
Let's help them a little, starting with fertilization. Look closely at the flower. It has both female and male reproductive parts. During pollination, a pollen grain goes from a stamen to the carpel. The pollen grain grows a pollen tube down to an ovule, allowing the male gamete to fuse with the female gamete. After that, the ovary will turn into a fruit and the ovules will become seeds. So the first step is to help the flower get some pollen on the stigma.
So we get some pollen from here and put it there.
That's not gonna work. Self-pollination is usually avoided because it reduces genetic variation. When a plant fertilizes itself, the offspring receive very similar genes from both parents, which can make them less able to survive diseases or changes in the environment. The flower probably also has self-incompatibility mechanisms to prevent this. The flower can chemically recognize its own pollen and block it, preventing fertilization. Others have male and female parts that mature at different times. In some flowers, the positions of the stamens and stigma made pollination difficult.
Then what do we do? Get the pollen from this flower and put it on the other flower?
Exactly. You just described cross-pollination.
I'm so smart. Wow, you're right. Now there's a fruit. What do we do now?
Disperse the seeds inside the fruit.
Why do seeds exist? Why can't there just be flowers?
Seeds protect the embryo plant and provide it with stored nutrients until it can grow on its own.
Okay, how do we disperse them?
Seeds can be dispersed in different ways. Some are carried by the wind, some float in water, and others are spread by animals, either by attaching to fur or being eaten and then excreted. Some plants also disperse seeds by explosive mechanisms that scatter them away from the plant.
Which one is this one?
What's the plant?
The DIY pack says this is a rose.
A rose. Then it needs animals to disperse the seeds.
Do we count as animals?
Close enough. Now we need the seeds to germinate.
What's that?
Germination is the process where a seed begins to grow into a new plant. We need to ensure there's water, oxygen, and warmth. Water is needed to activate enzymes and soften the seed coat. Oxygen is required for aerobic respiration to release energy for growth. Warmth is needed because enzymes work best at suitable temperatures. This will stimulate the release of gibberellin.
Gibberish.
No. Gibberellin. Gibberellin stimulates the production of enzymes that break down the stored food in the seed into smaller molecules that the embryo can use for growth.
My garden of flowers. Thanks, H2O.
And me.
It's just biology.